All right, so right here we got strongest invincible characters ranked. Now I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the top 5 is already solidified. We got post 500-year time skip Mark, we got Thragg, of course, we got either one or both of Mark's children, and then we got Eve up there as well. So what I'm interested to see is where some of the heavy hitting Viltrumites fall. So like obviously Nolan is one of those people, but then some of the other ones like Krieg will be interesting to see where they're placed on bro's list. So let's get into it.
Invincible Season 3 wrapped up a bit ago, and after taking some time to rewatch the series, I thought it might be fun to rank the top 10 strongest characters in the show. Mind you, I'm strictly talking about the animated series and no comic events. As anyone who's read the comics would know, the story changes fairly early on. In the comic, Omni-Man off-guard one-shots the Guardians of the Globe, whereas the show had a much more drawn-out fight. If you haven't read the comic yet, you won't have to worry. This video is based on animated show only. And for you comic book readers, that's why certain characters aren't ranked any higher.
Okay, right. I was going to say, because obviously, so Thragg's not going to be on this list, and then Mark is going to be pretty low on this list. He might not even make the top 10. So, okay, that puts things in perspective. So it's probably going to be like Conquest, Krieg, Nolan, some of the other Invincibles we've seen. So maybe Mark could make the list. You know what I'm saying? It depends. Let's see.
Many characters get power-ups or show their full power much later.
Alan,
we will not be counting those feats. If you guys are interested, I could do a ranking.
How did I forget Battle Beast, bro?
With the comic book version of the characters, so let me know by showing this video some love and telling me in the comments. And with that in mind, let's get started. As usual, I think the basis of the list is always the hardest part, and there are a few characters that could take this spot. I decided to settle with the Immortal for our number 10 slot. Despite what the memes may say, the Immortal is rather powerful even in comparison to some of the lower tier Viltrumites. The Immortal was able to briefly throw hands with a dazed Omni-Man one-on-one, and is implied to be the strongest hero in the time before Omni-Man. This would include both War Woman and Red Rush, the only other Guardians who managed to do any damage to Omni-Man. You could make an argument for either of these heroes, especially Red Rush with his speed, to be above the Immortal and take the number 10 slot. However, Immortal is just implied to be more powerful in his Amazon Prime character bio. You might imagine that Oliver should go here instead, seeing as he one-shot the Mauler twins, villains who consistently throw hands with the Immortal and OG Guardians. However, this is not consistent, seeing as the Maulers actually take hits from the Immortal and War Woman even better than Omni-Man did, and Omni-Man himself was not capable of instantly beating the Maulers at the start of Season 1. The more likely interpretation is that the Immortal was holding back as to not kill the Maulers.
Well, I would say Nolan was probably holding back, right? But
or perhaps he was trying to preserve the building they were in as they were fighting in a nuclear bomb silo. The OG Guardians also struggle with the Lizard League in the Adam Eve special, low tier villains that got one-shot by Rexplode. If you take this to the extreme, Oliver in Season 2 Rexplode would scale above Season 1 Omni-Man. Cecil later implies that Omni-Man is
but I think Nolan had been holding back the entire time. I know in the comic he says that for sure. I don't know if he says it in the animated series.
Still a relevant powerhouse to Adam Eve, and doesn't use Oliver to note Conquest strength even though he knows he one-shot the Maulers. Oliver also got incapacitated by Kursk and needed help from random heroes during the Viltrumite War, let alone the Immortal, who was among the strongest of heroes. It doesn't really make sense logically for Oliver to be stronger than him yet, and you can excuse his poor showings against the Maulers as Immortal holding back, which is pretty consistent.
He's giving the Immortal a lot of leeway that I would not give him. I would definitely be putting at least Oliver above him. Like I would put Oliver in that 10 spot. Immortal would not be on my list, but I do see where he's coming from and his justifications are very valid. There are definitely points to be considered. That's just my own personal opinion.
Next up is numbers 9, 8, and 7, which are the Viltrumites sent to capture Nolan, that being Lucan, Thula, and Vidor.
Okay.
Each of these three fights either Omni-Man and
I was wondering where they would be placed.
does better than the Immortal, or fights mid-Season 2 Mark. Mark, just 2 episodes later, is confidently stronger and faster than the Immortal, yet he ultimately loses the battle to Thula despite fighting to kill.
Bro, they did Thula so dirty in the show. She gets at least a little bit more development in the comic. It's really a shame. I'm interested to see how they're going to replace her like small but significant story arc in the animated show.
Vidor is likely stronger than Thula, seeing as he fought Nolan. The fact that he decided to fight Nolan and Nolan personally attacked Vidor and leaving Mark to fight Thula, it makes the most sense for Omni-Man to fight the stronger enemy and leave the weaker Thula for his son. Thula does still take a few hits from Nolan, and Mark lands a solid blow on Vidor, showing they aren't a tier apart or anything. They should be pretty close overall. Nolan ultimately beats Vidor, and Thula narrowly gets the upper hand on Mark before Omni-Man swiftly finishes things, showing he was the strongest Viltrumite there and Mark was probably the weakest. Although maybe he would have beaten Thula if she didn't sucker punch him. Lucan doesn't do too much, but he does slap Mark at the start of the encounter, the same Mark who is stronger than the Immortal, and proceeds to briefly clash blows with Nolan. Whether or not Lucan is stronger than Thula is more debatable. However,
I think Mark might be stronger than Lucan, or at least like on par with Lucan. I think he was holding, even Thula, I think he was holding back a lot. I think that's one of Mark's main things, is that he's usually holding back like way too much. He's stubborn in that regard, honestly, at least in the comic, and it seems to translate pretty well over to the animated show. He's usually holding back until he absolutely has to go hard. He does eventually kind of like relinquish himself from that barrier, but it's still a pretty relevant point of contention during this part of the series.
Vidor is probably the strongest in this tier, since Nolan struggled much more in defeating him than he did with Lucan.
I do agree with this though.
Our next tier is the largest, that being Battle Beast, Anissa, Mark in Season 3, and Omni-Man. This tier heavily depends on your interpretation of Anissa versus Omni-Man, which is a pretty complicated topic. Anissa is here for her feats against Season 2 Mark. Mark was already strong enough to contend with Thula and land a solid smack on Vidor. However, Anissa
is like that though. Anissa is like that, bro.
Completely blitzed this version of Mark and barely flinched when he punched her in the face. It's stated by Donald that Mark has less than an 18% chance of even surviving an encounter with Anissa.
Like, Anissa is like a top 5 strongest Viltrumite. Like, she's really like that for real. She's really, really like that.
Let alone even winning. She's then confirmed in the episode summary on Amazon Prime to be Mark's greatest challenge yet. This would obviously put Anissa above the Viltrumites we previously discussed, but also above Omni-Man from Season 1. Strictly speaking, from a feats perspective, Nolan was not that much stronger than Mark during the battle on Thraxa. Nolan couldn't just blitz Vidor and Thula, and took considerable damage from them. Even if we lowballed Mark, we do know he's at least stronger and faster than the Immortal by this point, yet Nolan has never dominated the Immortal as bad as Anissa did to Mark. Compare Immortal drawing blood from Nolan with single punches in both fights to Anissa barely flinching when Mark does the same thing. Even Donald says she's faster than Nolan, which is consistent with the feats and the Amazon Prime statement. Things are not so cut and dry, however, as in Season 3, Nolan was able to match punches with an evolved Alan the Alien against the Viltrumite executioners sent to finish them off. Alan earlier gave Anissa a bloody nose and sent her flying with just a casual uppercut, yet Nolan can match his strength. I'd be remiss to mention that Nolan did have to literally fly with his full body thrown into the punch, while Alan just punched from a normal standing position, meaning Alan is still quite a bit stronger than Nolan, but it's still impressive since he was clearly not serious with Anissa either. Cecil also implies to Adam Eve that Nolan might be comparable to Conquest when he first shows up. While Conquest was holding back, he was still toying with Season 3 Mark, which I'll get into in a minute. The fact Cecil uses Omni-Man to compare to Conquest instead of Mark or Anissa would imply that in Cecil's opinion, Nolan was the strongest Viltrumite around before Conquest appeared. If Anissa or Mark were stronger than Omni-Man was, why did Cecil use Omni-Man as a mark of comparison instead of those two?
See, that's where I'm going with it. Anissa is strong, like she's still top 5, but Nolan is also, like, I honestly think it's Thragg, Conquest, Nolan, Anissa, Krieg. Yeah, it's top 5, unless I'm forgetting someone, like so far that we've seen in the animated series, right?
I would personally say that in regards to Anissa versus Omni-Man, I do believe Anissa is most likely stronger, at least compared to Season 1 and 2 Omni-Man. Her feats are simply much better, and the statement
she has better feats, but I see where he's going, but I disagree.
It's about her power come from more concrete sources than Cecil's opinion. Season 3 Nolan could be stronger, however, with his ability to match Alan the Alien, with one of the showrunners saying the characters get stronger when protecting someone they care about. It seems that saving Alan awakened something inside of Nolan. If you don't think he's gotten stronger though, then I'd put him below Anissa, and you'd have to put a lot of stock in Cecil's opinion over the literal animation studio to get him higher in Season 1. That evidently brings us to Mark.
It's a fair point.
Or...
Nice. Nice.
Has grown a lot since his first days as a hero. After contending with the elite Viltrumite warriors in Season 2 and getting destroyed by Anissa, he trained for 3 months to the point that Donald believes he has surpassed Anissa. This is why I said this tier depends on Anissa versus Omni-Man, as if you agree that Anissa was stronger and Mark surpassed her, it means that Mark is stronger than his dad. But if you take Cecil's word as fact, Nolan would be around the level of holding back Conquest, which dominated Mark. Battle Beast would also go wherever you put Nolan, seeing as he was able to swap hands with the Viltrumite executioners that damaged Nolan and...
Okay, I'm wondering, did this guy read the comic? Because absolutely not, bro. Like, this is where it falls apart, and I think it might just be because I've already read the comic, but Battle Beast does not scale to anybody on this list at all. Like, Battle Beast washes everybody on this list. There's only one person, there's only 2 people in this entire series, really, 2 or 3, that can hang with Battle Beast, and none of them have been named. Battle Beast is washing Nolan. I don't care about feats in the show. Battle Beast is washing Conquest. Battle Beast is washing Mark. He already did it. Like, Battle Beast is washing Anissa. Like, Battle Beast is a fucking problem, bro.
Gave him a hard time, ultimately defeating one of the Viltrumites as they fought in open space. This is extra impressive, seeing as Battle Beast can't even fly and had to fight the Viltrumite like a normal human fighting a shark underwater. Whether he's stronger than Nolan is not clear yet, we just know he's in the same tier. If you believe Anissa is strong...
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Stronger than Nolan,
not even in the show.
Based on the many statements placing her there, then it would go Battle Beast and Nolan as 6 and 5, Anissa as 4, and Mark being number 3.
No, this is crazy. It's the other way around. It's literally the other way around. It's literally Mark at 6, Anissa at 5, Nolan at 4, Battle Beast at 3, but he really should be 1 because I know they're not going to put Thragg on this list because Thragg hasn't even appeared, right, in the animated show.
However, if you think Nolan got stronger in the prison break, or that Cecil implied he was always stronger than Mark, then this tier would actually completely flip, with Anissa 6, Mark 5, then Battle Beast and Nolan at 4 or 3. It's a very debatable topic, and
this the Battle Beast slander, the Battle Beast disrespect is crazy, bro.
I will probably make a full-length video on the topic soon, but even lowballing, Anissa should still be much stronger than Thula, Lucan, and Vidor based on her feats against Season 2 Mark, and being stated his greatest challenge yet. Number 2 is Alan the Alien. After his near-death encounter with Thula and the others, Alan returned stronger than ever. He was able to literally laugh off punches from Anissa and give her a nosebleed with a casual uppercut. During the prison break at the end of Season 3, he and Nolan matched punches to defeat the Executioner. And while Nolan put his entire body and literally propelled himself by flying, Alan threw a normal punch. It's basically the difference between someone Superman punching with their entire body jumping off the ground versus someone throwing a jab, and Alan could still match Nolan. You may be saying that Alan was getting overwhelmed by the Executioner and needed help from Nolan.
He was doing that on purpose,
them on
though.
the same tier. However, Alan was holding back to sort of get Nolan out of his funk, and by the time the two started tag teaming, Alan already took several blows to the head and probably had a concussion. The fact Alan could match Nolan's strength while not trying nearly as hard would clearly place him above the former hero. Whether you believe Nolan is stronger than Anissa or vice versa, Alan scales above both of them to a considerable degree, making his number 2 placement pretty concrete.
No, he should be number 3. It should be Battle Beast. Based on his list, it should be Battle Beast, Conquest, and then Alan. But he's gonna have Conquest as number 1. Which...
Stand ready for my arrival, Worm.
No, and if you've read the comic, you know how crazy this is. You know how crazy this is. The battle... Bro had Battle Beast at 6 and Conquest at 1. diabolical, bro. That means he's saying, literally, especially if he has knowledge of the comic, that Conquest is stronger than Thragg. And my guy, even if you don't know about the comic, you know about Thragg at this point. You know, like, you've heard the rumors, bro. You've heard stories. You've heard utterances, bro. There's no way that Conquest is even remotely on the same level as Thragg, much less stronger than someone that almost killed Thragg, who would have killed Thragg if not for a ridiculous circumstance, bro. So this list is a little interesting to me, though. I mean, it got me thinking, though, so I really like this. I like this video a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like this a lot.
Conquest is currently the strongest character in the Invincible animated series. Do I even need to explain? He treated the current Invincible like a toy, slamming the strongest version of Mark like a rag doll across the entire world. The same Mark who was stated to be stronger than Anissa, and is possibly stronger than his father as well. He spends the entire battle playing around and lecturing Mark on different ways he could try to win, goading him with the lives of civilians and his loved ones, yet Mark can do nothing to stop the absolute force of nature that is Conquest. Even with an insane rage amp from Adam Eve's sacrifice, Mark probably would have lost if not for her limits being removed and burning away Conquest's skin, which still didn't finish the job either. For those of you who take Cecil's statement about Omni-Man and believe he's still stronger than Mark or Anissa, he also just says Conquest is probably stronger. Conquest was holding back a majority of the battle on top of that, meaning even if Omni-Man could keep up with a suppressed Conquest, he'd probably get annihilated as soon as he goes full power. While Nolan was revered as a great warrior, Conquest was feared by all Viltrumites simply because he was so good at his job. Lucan, Vidor, Anissa, the Executioner, Viltrumites who can all swap hands with Nolan are terrified by the man named Conquest. He was so effective that he was denied a real name and received the title of Conquest. That's how—
Bro, the way the show sells Conquest is actually crazy, bro, because it's not even this deep in the comic. He's still a problem in the comic, but niggas did not come away from reading the comic thinking, oh, like, we are passionate about this character. He was a formidable foe, yes, but like all that extra shit they did, especially with, like, you know, giving him that kind of like emotional backstory of him not getting a name and him feeling alone, that shit is like not in the comic, bro. Conquest is just a monster. There's no like emotion, there's no humanity to Conquest, so they went out of their way to really humanize him to the point where I think it really like it oversells like how much of an issue he really is compared to like other people. He is an issue up until this point, like absolutely he's the most formidable person, but it's not like, it gets worse, bro. It gets worse fast, bro. Easily more powerful characters will be appearing in season 4 to where it's like you'll be looking back like, bro, how was Conquest a problem when Mark is dealing with shit like this that's crazy? Like, look, let me just say, when you see the dinosaur, just know, bro, it's gonna get goofy. Just remember the dinosaur is a goofy situation, bro. Just remember that.
How good he was. Alan is Conquest's only real competition in my opinion. However, his feat of dominating Anissa doesn't come close to how badly Conquest destroyed Mark, who had surpassed Anissa by this point. Alan's upper limits are still not clear, as the only times we've seen him he's holding back or just testing his powers. However, the same
Conquest would wash Alan from, well, maybe not wash, but he would still beat Alan at the end of the day. It would be like a slugfest, but Conquest would still beat Alan.
Could be said of Conquest. He just played with Mark before getting caught off guard by his rage amp and Adam Eve's max power. In terms of raw feats, I do think it would favor Conquest. At one point, Conquest snaps Mark's femur bone in half, the strongest and most durable bone in the body. No one else in the series has a feat that good with just one attack. Not Alan, and definitely not Omni-Man. Conquest is the strongest. He's simply the most powerful, and it's not close. Well, for now.
Honestly, first of all, this guy has some fire videos actually, like, but also I think he's putting too much credit on like some of the feats. I don't think the feats scaled as much as he thinks they do, and I think they're more so just for like the spectacle. Maybe things could play out differently in the animated show, because even though like they do kind of follow the same story for the most part, there are some like pretty key differences between both of the stories. So I will be interested to see how it does end up playing out, and maybe, you know, at the end of it, this list will be a little bit more accurate. Maybe they'll water Battle Beast down, maybe Nolan will get watered down, and a couple of other characters like Anissa or Alan will end up being stronger in the animated show than in the comic. But hey, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.